Big fluff.
I could no more love you than I could love a new species of bacteria.
What are you doing?
Learning.
In the streets, there is outrage against the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan.
The Brotherhood of our kind.
One of them was held in Boston.
But since the advent of nuclear weapons, the United States does not start fights.
Weapon.
Never before has man possessed so much power.
Soviet Union and the United States being superpowers.
Superpowers. The weak have taken the earth. For this, I was betrayed. False gods. Idols. No more.
Hey everybody, I'm Joel Murphy.
And I'm Andy McIntyre.
And this is Silver Linings Playback, the podcast where we watch maligned movies and we find their silver linings.
And it's still a month of looking at X-Men flicks, and we're at X-Men Apocalypse.
Which is now this is our third one this month. It's another one that sounds like it should be the end of the series. We had The Last Stand, which sounds like that's it, you're done. Wasn't the end. Now Apocalypse, which very much sounds like the end. Still not done. There was another one after this. There's two more after this.
There were, at least 3 movies in the X-Men universe released after this.
Because Logan as well.
Logan, yeah. Dark Phoenix, and then New Mutants.
Right. Logan, that I forgot momentarily because we won't be doing it.
Because that movie rules.
Yeah, that movie's great. That was they took 3 swings and they finally did a good. Although I was thinking about that. I've been rewatching all these. I haven't watched it because I've been doing them in chronological order and it came after this. But I was thinking about Logan in terms of because I just rewatched Days of Future Past. And so I guess the future is still not better.
No, it's not.
It didn't really work. They did all that stuff. It's a different dystopian future, but not a better one.
No. Most of the mutants are dead in the Logan future.
I think so there's less mutants than there were in the in the Days of Future Past continuity. So more of them die and the ones that live lose their powers. It all seems bad.
Yeah. But I will say Logan is excellent. Low on the rewatch value relative to some of the other movies in this franchise. Just because it's bleak.
Yeah. Well, and I think the reason that I didn't include it just now is I don't really view it as part of the continuity of everything else. It doesn't feel like it's a continuation of these other movies. It kind of feels like a standalone, almost like a one-off comic, if you look at it. It feels
like a little bit tangential, a little bit outside of these movies. I would agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah. So that but this is so we get Days of Future Past and then that resets the timeline to give us this, which is an attempt to create a new continuity separate from what we were getting with the original X-Men series.
Yeah, this is like a soft sequel to Days of Future Past, but not in any way a prequel to the original 3 X-Men movies.
Right, because they're just now Nightcrawler showing up sooner. Now we're just getting different versions of the characters that aren't because now Sophie Turner is Jean Grey and she's not really matching with the Jean Grey from The Last Stand, who was an actress.
She's doing a different thing.
I did read that they offered the part to that actress and she turned it down. The one from The Last Stand.
Famke Janssen?
No, the young Jean Grey.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not fun. They were going to de-age Famke Janssen because that works so well in all these previous movies this month. They were just going to do it
looking
the
at
whole time.
plasticine Patrick Stewart.
If he can be baby smooth, then why not Famke Janssen?
Yeah. You know, her skin's already naturally smoother than Patrick Stewart's. I feel it might work out better, but
so we're obviously all about positivity on the show. We're going to end with silver linings, but can I throw a hot take at you about the original flavor X-Men versus the first class X-Men? Is it fair to? I just want to say this.
Class or?
Well, I just want to say this group, like this Apocalypse group, the young versions of the characters versus the older versions of the characters.
Sure.
I feel like that you could say that for Magneto, I'd say a wash. It's equal, like the two casting.
Sure, I'd agree with that.
And then I think I would say that every other actor is better in the original the casting than their younger counterparts. The performance wise, it's not a value judgment, but I think the performances we get from the original crew, I would say I enjoy more pretty much across the board than the ones from.
The only slight pushback, just because the characters are so drastically different, is Jennifer Lawrence versus Rebecca Romaine Stamos O'Connell.
I'm going to say this, and I've put a lot of thought in it. I'm a huge Jennifer Lawrence fan. I think she's fantastic. I think she's not good in these movies. I don't think she wants to be in them. I don't think she cares.
No, I think you're pretty much dead on about that.
Yeah, I think she got cast because she's a hot name, and I totally get it. But I think probably the experience of putting on all the makeup and everything was miserable. I think she doesn't really care. And I don't think it plays to her strengths in terms of, I think I think Jennifer Lawrence is a better actor than Rebecca Romaine. But I think the role of Mystique, who's kind of flat anyway, just needs a physicality to the performance that I think Rebecca Romaine does better.
No, I think you're right there. I think that, just like I said, they're not playing the same character. They're playing a character with the same name. Like Ty Sheridan is playing the same character as James Marsden. Sophie Turner is playing the same character as Famke Janssen.
Yeah.
Cody Smith McPhee is playing the same character as Alan Cumming.
Yeah. I would say, honestly, I feel like the only one that I could be talked into being equal, but it's like on paper, I think our good friend Kelsey Grammer is about as perfect casting for Beast as you could get. But I think what Nicholas Hoult does with it, I do really enjoy. And he's a bigger part.
Yeah.
I think he does a good job. But yeah, I just like, I'm not trying to be mean towards this cast, but I just have that where I'm like, they have the advantage of they did it first and like they kind of form the characters in our minds. But when I watch this crew, I just have that feeling of like, you're not the X-Men. It's unfortunate because it's a tough situation for all of them, but I kind of feel like it's a downgrade cast wise. And I like McAvoy too. I love James McAvoy. I think he's really talented. I never once look at him and think you're Professor Xavier because Patrick Stewart is Professor X.
Well, part of that is because Patrick Stewart is Professor X.
Right. Like they just put that man in a comic. And I think never was it more apparent to me than rewatching Days of Future Past, because when they have a scene together, you're like, oh no. Like, oh, look, James McAvoy's talking to Professor X. Like,
because, yeah, he's like, I thought he was at his best in First Class as a young Charles Xavier.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. I agree with that. But then now we're getting into this movie. You thought we were off topic by talking about the rest of the franchise, but now we're 20 years later, or however long it is. But we're in the 80s versus
20 years of movie time, not real world time.
Well, yeah. But I'm saying
about 20 years apart.
No. But I'm saying continuity wise, that was the 60s. This is the 80s. And he's not becoming Patrick Stewart, although he should be, because again, we're now hitting the timeline of when Patrick Stewart was supposed to be baby smooth,
He should have been baby smooth at that point. That is true.
I actually think that character was younger than Sophie Turner's supposed to be in this movie. I don't remember what the year was that they get Jean Grey.
It's ambiguous.
Yeah, but she's younger than this.
The Jean Grey from Last Stand is like 13, I think.
Yeah. There's also, so there's two things that are not McAvoy's fault, because I guarantee this came from a studio perspective of like, we cast James McAvoy in the part. So here's two things. Like, he can't lose his hair and he needs to walk around. Like, that clearly they cast him as Professor Xavier. The two things that you would most say like are distinct characteristics of the man are he's bald and he's in a wheelchair. And they were like, well, neither of those things. We can't do that.
Yeah, we're not doing any of that.
And so you just see that over and over again in these movies that they don't want to do it, to the point that in this movie, he finally ends up bald, but in the weirdest way possible, which is he's had a full head of hair up until the 1980s. And then the battle with Apocalypse happens and that makes all his hair fall out, which means don't know what happened in the original continuity to make him bald, because these events didn't happen.
Right. Yeah, it's tough to say. Because I think in the comics, he was like prematurely bald anyway.
Yeah, I think, yeah, he was just pretty much always bald or balding, you know, so.
Much like Patrick Stewart.
Yeah, exactly. Look, what we're saying is Professor X is based on Patrick Stewart. Like, clearly someone stole his life rights.
And Patrick Stewart, when he found out about the movie, when he was like getting cast for it, and he saw the picture of Professor X, he's like, but that's just me. Like, he actually was like, wait, no, that looked way too much like me.
Yeah, I think that he thought that they drew him to show him what the character would look like. Like that
he thought it was like a previs like mock-up, not an actual just cell from the comic.
Which is, yeah, totally. But yeah, so I just like, I think that's always working against this cast, that I as much as I think First Class is good, and Days of Future Past I really enjoyed, but they never quite feel like the real X-Men to me. And I think that's a real battle.
No, there's definitely like a Wish X-Men vibe, a Temu X-Men vibe going through all of this.
And then, so on top of that, for Apocalypse, we get the truly most baffling casting decision, which is Oscar Isaac, red hot at this point. We got to put him in the movie. He's a big star. Let's make him visually unrecognizable and let's make him sound nothing like he does.
Yeah, so Apocalypse is, I think, a great X-Men villain, and I think at his best in the 90s cartoon.
Yes. And to be clear, Apocalypse is an alien in the comics. Like,
right, but is also kind of the first mutant and was around in Egyptian times. And it's, there've been various retcons like every comic book character.
Right. But yeah, he's a space alien who's a big like cosmic threat, like an annihilation. Again, he's Apocalypse. He could wipe out all of civilization. He is kind of, like, I don't know, we've talked about this before with like Feige being involved in The Last Stand, where it's like, this feels like this could have been, if done well, the equivalent, not the same character, obviously, but the equivalent in scope of like Infinity War with Thanos. That's the level of threat that Apocalypse should feel like.
Yeah, he has big final boss energy, especially relative to like, I mean, Magneto's awesome and he's such a great, well-written character. And Fassbender was great. Ian McKellen was great. But he's almost like the day-to-day villain. Yeah. Like it's always, he's more like Gargamel than Thanos.
Yeah, well, it's, he's a frenemy. He and Charles Xavier are very much in love with each other. And they just can't get on the same page. They just, they're the Sam and Diane of the X-Men universe.
Yeah, but Apocalypse is that final boss. But I want to talk for a second visually about Apocalypse.
Oh, yeah.
Let's start here. One, trying to put a comic accurate Apocalypse in the real world is a bad choice.
Yeah. It's a very bad choice, which it does seem like in this movie, I guess because it's the 80s, they were trying to lean a little closer into what people look like in the comics. That does seem like that was a decision that was made. And I get that, and that's kind of cool. But some stuff just doesn't work. Like, it's not going to look good on screen.
Just with like, because if you do it like dead accurate, which they didn't do, and that's fine. He looks like a reject from Kiss or a Juggalo. If you try to do it like 1-to-1, the way they did for Psylocke, which may be the most comic accurate portrayal of any character ever on screen ever. I just want to put that out there.
Well, again, we said Professor X, but besides that.
But I'm saying just like aesthetics, look, everything. Like it looks like they just took a picture of and put it up on screen. Because like even Patrick Stewart, because he looks like the way they draw Professor X, like they didn't until Doctor Strange, they didn't do the yellow hover chair. You know, there are other aesthetic looks that they didn't match 1-to-1.
I got you. The costume is directly from the page. Yeah.
But like, I don't know that they've made a more comic accurate costume for any character in any film adaptation of a movie than they did for Olivia Munn as Psylocke.
No, for sure. And I believe I read that they bought that from a sex shop. So that's where you actually get the comic book accurate, which actually makes a lot of sense when you really think about it.
I'm unsurprised by that bit of information. But like, Apocalypse looks ridiculous.
Yes.
Like, if someone showed me a picture of Apocalypse apropos of nothing, I wouldn't find him scary or intimidating the way I would say the way Magneto is drawn, the way Mr. Sinister is drawn, the way Sauron or other X-Men villains are drawn. Like, they look scary. If I just saw a picture of Apocalypse like that, okay, that guy's weird looking.
Well, and you get a thing where it's like, you know, with Mystique, Raven, you know, that character, like clearly they're trying to spare, you know, it seems like particularly Jennifer Lawrence. They don't want to have to put her in the full body makeup. So a lot of times she just looks like Jennifer Lawrence, you know, and I don't really care, to be honest.
I'm fine with that. That doesn't bother me.
But I'm saying if ever there was a time and a place to just go, you know what, screw it, we're just going to let the person look like the actor. It's why doesn't Apocalypse just look like Oscar Isaac? We should have just thrown it all out and just had him be him. And who cares?
And like maybe you do some like light tattooing or something to kind of show some, to like make some nods. Like that's something I think that Marvel, like MCU Marvel, has done substantially better than the DCEU and better than the X-Men universe, is like find ways to change the costume and change the look where it still feels like the character, but in a way that works in live action. Like,
right.
Oscar Isaac, you know, the joke at the time was that he looked like Ivan Ooze from the Power Rangers movie.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's the joke is there because truth and comedy, baby.
Yeah. No, he for sure. I mean, I think that sums it up perfectly. He looks like a Power Rangers villain, which, you know, is already going to rob this movie of all tension because he never feels. And somehow a CG Thanos feels more human than a live action.
Oscar Isaac.
Because all the prosthetics make it so he can't really emote or, you know, give much of a performance. It's bad all around. And I don't understand how they didn't do one day of dailies and just go, we better throw these out.
Yeah, it was more like, well, we're stuck now.
Well, the cameras are already rolling and the checks have already cleared. So let's get this out.
But yeah, that I think segues into my second area to malign this movie is none of the actors seemed like they were having fun.
No, everyone. I think that's some of it, too, is like as much as I can sit there with the cast, just, you know, overall, it seems like everyone is just contractually obligated to be there and wants to be somewhere else, which, you know, I mean, the more we've learned about the behind the scenes of these movies, I get.
Yeah. Like I like most of the actors in this movie in almost everything. Like I thought Sophie Turner was great as Sansa Stark. I haven't seen her in much else besides this and that.
But she's great in that. Like
she's great. No, she's phenomenal.
I'd say that, and then number 2, if you need another recommendation, her carpool karaoke video.
That's delightful. I've seen that.
Yeah, that honestly might be her best work. She is so charming in real life, and not also it just as a side tangent, because this drives me crazy with it. I don't know how we made it through the original trilogy with the two psychic characters, Charles Xavier and Jean Grey, could just read your mind. But for some reason in the reboot, maybe this is something where when you first get the power and you're first developing it, you have to do this. You have to put your fingers up to your temple to read everyone's mind. But like when she did it in this movie, it made me so sad, where I was like, no, not you too.
Yeah, yeah. Like ditto Nick Hoult, we talked about a lot of the other people, but
Nick Hoult, who quietly is having an amazing career, where he shows up in a lot of blockbusters where you forget it, but it's like, oh, right, he's in Mad Max Fury Road. Oh, right, he's going to be Lex Luthor in James Gunn's Superman.
Which is phenomenal casting.
Yeah, but because he's great at playing a villain. I mean,
and because if you haven't watched the show The Great on Hulu, he's so good as Peter the Fourth or whatever it is.
Yeah, and The Favorite, he's fantastic in as well. Like, no, he's really good at playing sort of lovable jerk characters in things. He's a great actor. And yeah, I think, like I said, he's probably after Michael Fassbender, probably, I think, giving the second most captivating performance in these.
Yeah. And then a lot of the characters, like Cody Smith-McPhee, Academy Award nominated actor.
Mm-hmm. Power of the Dog.
Yep. Is in the movie.
Yeah, and it's, again, you had a tough job because Alan Cumming as Nightcrawler is perfect. It's so good. And I think Cody Smith-McPhee does a fine job, but the character isn't the same. It's not really all that memorable. No, but like
Nightcrawler is objectively one of the coolest X-Men.
And the star of X2, I think.
Yeah, and like, he was the best in the beat 'em up arcade game.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I liked using Wolverine because you had the claws.
Yeah, but I think that the teleporting power up actually killed more people. But I liked Wolverine too.
Yeah, because I felt like Wolverine, you had that bonus of even when you didn't have the power, you
had the claws.
Yeah, that game was so fun. That might be my favorite arcade game of all time.
Yeah, I think I remember one at one of my mom's, like, her work Christmas parties, they it was for the families and everything, was at a Chuck E. Cheese, and they turned all the games where you could just go play. And so I actually beat it in the arcade with a group of people, and that was awesome.
That's really fun. I remember a few years ago in LA, they had an arcade bar, and I sat there and played through the whole thing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well done.
Thank you. Yeah.
Good job. Did you get to play as Wolverine?
I was Wolverine. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. Who was the worst? Who do you think was the worst?
Oh, Cyclops.
Yeah, Cyclops was bad. Yeah.
Just because he just had the one bolt that went across the screen.
And because it was a side scroller for you kids that are too young, it was very easy to just miss people with that because it was just a straight line. So if they weren't standing right in front of it, which I guess is the flaw with Cyclops as a character.
Well, yeah, because Colossus, Wolverine, and Nightcrawler could kill everybody.
Yeah.
And Storms was pretty good too. Dazzler sucked.
Dazzler was bad. Yeah.
But yeah, Dazzler and Cyclops were bad.
Also, but I think the edge goes to Cyclops for the worst because not only is he not fun to play, you're also Cyclops.
You're also Cyclops.
Yeah. They should have had Jean Grey, and then like her power is she kills all of her fellow mutants. You just press a button and they all collapse.
They just all die.
That would have been fun.
It'd been great.
Yeah.
But anyways, no. Yeah, this movie felt like they tried to do a live action version of like the Revenge of Kitty Pryde or whatever, Pride of the X-Men, the soft like pilot for the X-Men animated series. This felt like they were doing a live action version of that version of X-Men.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. That we're putting that team, like we're doing the 80s, and it's, the team where we have, Jubilee and Cyclops and, that whole.
But then like Storm, but then other dumb things like Storm is a villain.
Yeah, which is weird. Like, I didn't mind that Storm was a villain because there was sort of the idea that Apocalypse was manipulating people, but they never gave Storm a redemption moment, which I thought was weird.
Nor did they say her name.
That's true, too. It was very obviously Storm, but they never said it.
They never said Storm. They never said Aurora.
They never said Apocalypse. They never call the character Apocalypse in the whole movie.
They called him Ensabanur, which is like his Egyptian name a couple times, but they never referred to him as Apocalypse.
Yeah, even though it's the title of the movie, he's never called that. But we do get wreak havoc as a line.
And then he dies off screen.
Which is that's a Summers family trait. That's like a thing they do. You know, all the Summers boys. The third son, where's he? He just died off screen, I guess, too. So, you know, that's their deal.
But to be fair, the third son didn't exist in comics continuity until like 2003 or something like that.
Actually, yeah, that's true. It's too late. Put that.
They're like, oh, yeah, there was a third Summers boy.
We just never noticed him. He was always in the corner. Also, Jimmy. I mean, in fairness, Cyclops probably wouldn't see him either.
Yeah.
Can we talk about as much as I mock that character, because you should, I do think the one thing, I don't know that this is a silver lining, but I will say as a thing I'll give this movie that it truly captures is how absolutely horrific his power is, and how what an absolute nightmare it is to have that power and to discover that you have that power.
That is, I mean, if we're approaching silver linings, like that scene was done well.
It was. And it's like a Carrie level discovery of like, I am a teen boy who's already been bullied at school. And now I've discovered this, that my eyes shoot laser beams out of them uncontrollably.
Because I was in a plane crash and the part of my brain that would have let me control it doesn't work anymore.
Yep.
But if I wear Ray-Bans, I'm good.
That's because he has a sponsorship deal with Ray-Bans.
Nice. Yeah, good for him.
They're like, we'll fix your brain when you're wearing these. We did a very specific surgery that we sponsored.
Yeah, Cyclops sucks. He punches people with his eye blasts.
Yep.
Because it's not even lasers. They're not like hot. It's just like force.
Even in this movie, I feel like everyone's tired of him because there's this scene. You know what? Are we at silver linings? Because I think this scene might be. I don't know. I don't know if we maligned it enough, but
this movie's dumb and bad.
Let's just put it there. Yeah, the movie's not good, and I think
it doesn't make a lot of sense. At one point, Apocalypse wants to destroy everybody, so he launches all the nuclear weapons into space.
Which they just go to space. There's no like real discussion of what that would actually entail. Like, you know, or like, so because it doesn't make them go away. They're just floating in space now? That seems
just
like
space debris.
But they're nuclear weapons, which means they could still explode, I would think, especially if they all collided with each other. I don't really know. Where's Neil deGrasse Tyson when you need him? But it seems bad to me to have our entire outer space surrounding Earth full of nuclear weapons.
Yeah, I mean, I think like in general, weapons need to be specifically armed in order to function, in order to start like the nuclear chain reaction. So it's probably safe in that regard, but it is still a bunch of radioactive material just in the atmosphere.
And like, it does feel like it could fall back to Earth at some point.
Potentially.
And maybe burn up in the Earth's atmosphere. Seriously, Neil, well, you've wasted so much time analyzing movies that don't need you. Where are you on X-Men Apocalypse?
X-Men Apocalypse, yes. Neil, get in the comments.
Come on, Neil. We know you're listening, and we know that you know the answer. So tell us, what would happen if they shot all of the nuclear weapons into space at once? This actually, I think, might be your field of expertise. I don't know. I guess, like, it's adjacent.
It's close. I mean, he's more like astrophysics than particle physics, but they're not worlds apart.
Yeah, I think it's closer to some of the movie stuff he's weighed in on. So
yeah, like didn't he like weigh in on Jurassic Park and he's not a paleontologist?
Right. Also, I'm just gonna say it. All that could happen. I'm going against him, and I say Jurassic Park could happen.
Well, I think that like the fan theory about Jurassic Park is why it could happen is that they never made dinosaurs. they just genetically engineered things that looked like we thought dinosaurs looked.
Yeah, which makes more sense because they don't look like we think dinosaurs look now. I also, that's a whole, we don't have time to get into that, but like, no, can we just, as a society, admit that we don't know what dinosaurs look like, and we never will, and all of it's made up. This is what we know, and we're only kind of certain, because then if you really dig deep into the Bone Wars, that's right, look up the Bone Wars. That's what I encourage you to do.
With safe search on.
Or off. I don't know what your day's like. If you're at home and you got time to kill, you take off that safe search and search Bone Wars. You're going to discover things either way. But the one that I'm referring to is it was like this race between two paleontologists to discover dinosaurs. And then it turned out they just made up a bunch of dinosaurs, including the Brontosaurus, because it had already been discovered. So that's not a real dinosaur. Hate to break it to you. All of that to say, all we know is maybe what their bones look like if we put them together correctly. We don't know. When they're just like, they have feathers, I think they get bored and they're like, you know what?
News.
You know what? Nobody's talked about dinosaurs in a while. Let's just say they had feathers. Who's gonna call us out? Who's gonna call us out on it? You know what? Raptors, really smart, can use computers and open doors. It's true.
You don't know.
It's true.
They're all a bunch of clever girls.
Now, if you type Bone Wars clever girls, that is actually a very different thing.
Yes, please. I mean, do you? But
yeah. I'm just warning you. It's good. I've watched it a few times, but it's not about dinosaurs.
No. And the girl's not all that clever.
I mean, that's the irony. I kind of view it as dramatic irony. Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, stay tuned for our sister podcast, Silver Lining Splashback, where we watch malign pornography and find the silver lining.
Weird thing, Wayne Knight's still in it.
Playing the exact same role and still gets stuff all over his face.
The shaving cream bit's a little different in this one, but you know.
Just a smidgen. Anyways, quick plot summary. Apocalypse gets resurrected. Gets 4 horsemen that are Angel, Psylocke, Storm, and Magneto. And then the horsemen immediately turn on him, and then the X-Men team up and win, and now we have the X-Men.
Right. Essentially, the X-Men are saved by the fact that Magneto has kids all over town. I think that's the real discovery, is that Magneto has just been setting up franchises across the globe and has a lot of children that he wasn't aware of, but has a fondness for them.
Yeah.
Because we get which, I mean, I don't know. The whole plot where he's, he works in this town and he is just like trying to live a quiet life, and he has a wife and a kid. And then his wife and kid are murdered in a very contrived way. I just I don't know. We've already really well established Magneto's trauma that didn't really work for me. But then he's saved by the fact that he finds out that Quicksilver is his kid. And then he's like, Apocalypse is harming his child, and he decides to help him. Also, not clear if Wanda exists in this world.
If you go to the Days of Future Past, he does have a younger sister, not a twin, in that movie.
Oh, okay. But we don't see her in this one.
Yeah. No. Yeah, and so that's the movie. Let's pivot.
Okay, so yeah, I mean I think the Cyclops stuff is well done, of just showing how terrible it would be to discover that power, and just they really play it through of it. He doesn't just discover it and then we do editing. He still has to go to the school with his eyes bandaged and discover how to harness. Oh, that's what I was going to say. I do think it's a silver lining of the everyone's sick of Cyclops. The scene, it did make me legit laugh. The scene where Professor X is encouraging him of no, just, it's fine. Let loose. We got to discover how your power works and your maximum capabilities. So just open your eyes and just go for it. And then he immediately takes out a tree, and he's like, I think that was my favorite tree. I love that tree. My grandfather planted it. And he's actually mad at him for the thing he just told him to do.
Yeah, it's well done.
No, I liked that scene a lot. All of the stuff, like that stuff with Cyclops, I thought was good. We do get, I mean, we just pivoted and I forgot to mention this, but we touched on it a little bit. The 20 years passing and no one aging thing really bugs me about this franchise, because his brother, like, is portrayed as if he's the same age that he was in First Class, even though it's 20 years later.
Yeah, because in First Class, it was the late 60s.
Mm-hmm. And this is the 80s, and maybe it's 15 years. We haven't done the math, but it's 60s to 80s either way. And
well, this movie came out in 83. This movie is set in 83 because Jedi's in the theater.
Right. But I'm saying it could have been later 60s. I don't remember what year in the 60s. But either way, it's like time, like a significant amount of time has passed and no character looks any older. It looks like it's, you know, a year or two after that movie.
Yeah. They did kind of try to do old age makeup with Rose Byrne's character. That's it.
Which just feels unfair to her. Was she like, wait a second? Wait, hold
on. Hold the phone here.
Where's the gray in Fassbender's hair? Come on. Like, he's got to become Ian McKellen pretty quickly. And like
he's got to be Ian McKellen in about 20 minutes. So
and you're treating him like he's Ewan McGregor in like in the Disney Plus show, like Kenobi, not even like the prequels, right, where you've got a very limited amount of time. But yeah, Rose Byrne, we needed to age her up to make that clear.
And they did it with all the care that they age up the second best actress in any high school drama department who gets cast as the old lady.
100%. It was the same technique. They drew some lines on her face. They put some baby powder into the wig they put on her. Like, it'll look good from a distance. Those back rows will think you're old.
But we've pivoted.
Mm-hmm. I
know
that
just shows.
Yeah, love it. That's a silver lining for me.
Well, I said before, I don't think the actors were having a lot of fun making this movie. Someone felt like they were having fun. Like, there's a sense of fun in this movie that's like, like the action is like, it's like fun. It's comic booky. It's kind of cartoony. And I mean that in a good way. Like, the superpower stuff looks cool. When the X-Men get to X-Men, like, that's neat.
Yeah, I will say two things that really jumped out to me watching this now, because I think this came out right before as many things as will compliment the MCU for, and I think the MCU did a lot of things really amazingly well. I think once it really became the dominant thing, what you saw pretty quickly was the crunch that they put VFX studios under, and like CG quality plummeted. And I think people don't always understand that like it wasn't the people who do CG. Those people are all incredibly talented and can do amazing things, but they needed more shots quicker for cheaper. And like all the studios burned these people out. But all of that to say, when you watch this movie, all of this was still at the time when they put in the work to give like what was needed. All the powers look the way they should, and they look good. Anytime anyone does any X-Men thing, it looks good. And the other thing I'll say that I think is related to that, because when you have bad CG and you need to cover it up, is a lot of times they make everything now too dark and you can't see anything. You can see this movie. It is so well lit, and I do appreciate that.
Yeah, I would agree with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah, which I know those sound thin, but those are actual things that there have been so many recent movies that I'm excited to watch in my house. And if I try to watch them at like 2 p.m. when there's sunlight coming in through the windows, forget about it. Like, I can't see a single thing. And the Disney Plus shows may be worst of all. Like, you can't see a single thing that happens.
Well, I mean, that's like when you think about the early days of big effects movies, big CGI effects movies in the 90s. They were like, the cheap ones were all really dark.
Right. Yeah, because you hide so much more in the dark. And also, to this point, Jurassic Park, the effects still hold up better than a lot of modern movies. Like, like there's a few things that haven't aged super well, but for the most part, like when that T-Rex shows up and like chases after their car, it looks amazing.
Yeah. Even that opening shot of like all the dinosaurs is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But anyways, we're talking about X-Men Apocalypse. Yeah, it does look good. This when they're superheroing, it looks cool. I thought Angel was a great example of changing a character to look cool on the big screen. Yes. Like when they did the Archangel wings and stuff. Like I thought that was really well done, and that looked cool as hell.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that.
Because if they done like the flat surface wings like they do in the comics, it would look stupid. Like he has these like great like metal wings. Like it looks really cool. Also, this predated the MCU doing any of those fight cages, right? Because we started seeing that stuff. I know Shang-Chi, I think, had it, and like, there's been others. Like we've seen some MCU like places, underground fight cages where, you know, people with powers have to fight. But I think this might be the first time we saw that. And I did actually like that. Yeah. The fight. And I thought that was a good introduction for Nightcrawler of very true to the character of I don't want to fight you, but now if I'm backed into a corner and I have to fight you, I'm going to win. Yeah, like it's a nightmare to fight me, which again that's the game. That's the X-Men game. Yep. Yeah. Again, comic accurate Psylocke. That was, I think you got to give that a silver lining. Yeah, and I enjoyed Olivia Munn in this. As was, you know, hard as I was on a lot of this cast, like I thought she was good casting. Like I enjoyed her. She doesn't have a lot to do, but the sword was cool too. Yeah. Her little psychic blade, that was neat. Yeah. I think we did it. Yeah. Yeah, we did it. We did it. I mean, so here's the thing. This movie is dumb and bad. It is not the worst movie in the X-Men franchise. Stay tuned to next week. Well, hold on. Before we... Oh, no, that's the next thing. Yeah. I have a silver line. I had a silver line in my pocket this whole time that trust me, man, we were always in good hands because you can say what you will about this movie and what it gave us or what it didn't give us and how enjoyable it was. But it gave us this. And I think this alone was worth the experience of making this movie. So...
You are back in the blue, but apparently they've simplified the bluing of you.
Yeah, turns out they never had to do 8 hours of full-blown body paint ever.
Oh. So is it CGI now or something, or?
No, I wish. Then I would be like, maybe take a little off the thigh. No, it's like a blue, like, pantyhose that goes around my whole body that I can't sit to pee in. Can't do any form of bathroom. Like the guy who made it, we're like, well, she's a girl. She didn't go to the bathroom. So I pee standing up out of a funnel. Yeah.
I've actually burst in.
Go girl.
I've burst into her bathroom with a BB gun while she was trying to pee in her funnel.
He pelted me while I'm like, it's so hard to do because you have to stop while you're in the middle of peeing to let the rest of it go out. Like, that's a whole scientific process. And so I'm like trying really hard and like there's a lot going on. And then he burst in and started pelting me. And it wasn't fair because we were all shooting each other with guns. But you all were all in clothes. We were all in clothes. I'm naked.
We were telling this story the other day and we were saying like, so there we were and she's like huddled on the floor in her bathroom naked. And me,
and
Nick,
and
all Michael.
Up on me and I'm naked.
And we're unloading on her. Then we just
Trust me, you're gonna want to see this episode.
The Bone Wars. See you next week, everyone.
Silver Linings Playback is a production of HoboTrashCan.com. If you enjoyed the show, please rate or review it on Apple Podcasts. Hear more great shows on the Peak Sloth Podcast Network.